This interview was promised to be a 30 minutes HR interview. HR interview is an interview where you usually get asked the same questions that are in your CV, maybe some deeper level questions just about your experience. But it ended up completely different way this time. The only good thing about this interview is that on this example I can show you the 4 red flags that you can use to determine if this is really a place where you want to work. So hi, my name is Aleksei, I'm a software engineer. I think it's a separate skill to be good at interview, to be able to sell yourself, and it's best practiced on real interviews, and that's the reason why I think it's important for every software engineer, for every developer, engineer, architect to participate on the interviews at least once a month. So I never prepared to an interview just to see what are my weak points, and this time I didn't even have the chance to prepare because the meeting was scheduled next day from the moment where I discussed it with the HR person. And the first red flag is not professional HR. There is a recent study that indicates that professional HR determines if an employee will be hired, if an interview will be hired to a company, and if the employee will be happy working in this company. So how did I understand that this HR person is not professional? First question that I got asked is the years of my experience, and I'm gonna explain why this is a bad idea later in the video. But what is also important is that I had this number in my CV and on my LinkedIn page, so this person didn't even care to go and check. It also was followed by some questions about the technologies, what I know or don't know, and those things were also listed on my resume and on the website. And I know that many people ask this, many HR professionals ask this, but I don't really see why. I don't know why HR people always do this. Sometimes there is a good person, and if it's a professional, he'll say, okay, I see this in your resume, but can you confirm? That's kind of better, because this person clearly wouldn't even check my resume. Then we just agreed on the time when the interview will be conducted. I also asked what will be the content on the interview, and I was warned that it's gonna be a team interview, so I will have some colleagues from the position I'm interviewed for, and the HR person shared that it's gonna be a team interview, so there is gonna be 2 more people from my future team, but it's not gonna be a technical interview. And the next day, when the interview was scheduled, I woke up completely tired, I couldn't sleep well, I was kind of low energy, so you can expect that it's already a recipe for disaster. So before we start with the interview itself, if you haven't yet clicked the subscribe button, you have a button below, so please click it and let's dive deeper on the interview. So I'm tired, I have low energy, but I still need to go to that interview because I have to practice and I break out my comfort zone. So I click the join button in a Zoom app. And what I can see are 3 more people, HR person who is already scrolling in her phone, a team lead who ended up being kind of nice guy, so big respect to him. He tried to make this interview more comfortable. And the last person was a senior software engineer. This person was looking very upset and very angry, but I was hoping he's just stressed out because not many software developers have a chance to interview. Maybe it's a piece, and maybe this is his first interview, so that's why he's nervous and showing a negative emotional context. This senior developer were looking stressed out, looking angry, but I was hoping that maybe it's his first interview. Not many developers have a chance to interview, so I was hoping until the end that this person is just nervous. So I got introduced to the project, I have asked some questions, and here's a second red flag, which you can find out by asking the question I always ask. It's how the knowledge base is shared. The answer to this question on this particular interview was, we usually share it by the word of the mouth, meaning that there is no documentation, meaning that in case some people are sick or fired or somebody forgot some detail, you will never learn about this. So you don't want to work in a company like this. And if you hear about communication If you hear about documentation being shared verbally, you should run away from that place. I decided to give it a try. So the next step were my introduction. I introduced myself, I explained what is my expertise. I got asked some questions about my experience from the mainly team lead guy, so it was a very nice conversation. But then hell started, because this senior software developer started to ask me technical questions. By the moment he started to ask technical questions, it was already 15 minutes past from the start of the interview, so I was hoping that at least there are gonna be not so many. Because the level of the questions this person was asking was the questions you can find if you Google 15 most popular Java developer questions. It's very theoretical, very easy to answer questions. You just have to remember the answer, and there is no way you can check the expertise of a person by asking those questions. I think the best way to test expertise is having a live coding interview or taking some piece of a code from your existing code base, creating a separate app with this piece of code, and inserting some bugs there. And then asking a person to find those bugs, because that is exactly what we do as a software engineers. Millions of bugs every day. The third red flag is not happy colleagues. If you can see a person on an interview who is not happy, like this software engineer, who was clearly not happy to be there, who was angry that probably he didn't get paid for conducting this interview and he wasn't happy speaking with people. I don't know what was the reason he was so unhappy. Maybe he had some problem in personal life. But it appeared to me that this person is constantly in such a mood. And if you are working with people like this, you're gonna quickly become also an unhappy person. I had experience working with hard colleagues, and in my experience, after a half year, you're gonna feel burned out. You're gonna be also unhappy person because emotional context at the workplace is shared very fast. So my tip for you, if you see such a person in an interview, would be reconsider joining this company. But if you are finding yourself being unhappy in your current position, or maybe you are happy but you don't know how to communicate that and you just miss the soft skills, I have a video about soft skills. This video is created for software developers, so it's kind of playbook you can follow. It's very technical and structured, so you can check it out. This person was asking me about the technologies and concept, the knowledge that I would never use in a practice. It was highly theoretical knowledge. Maybe it could be used at some low-level projects, but definitely not at this one. But I have to admit, I didn't answer all of them. And as we were approaching the second half of the hour, and I had some meetings planned, I had to interrupt this interview, which felt so disgusting because imagine you asking somebody a question and he doesn't answer it well, but he also runs away from kind of this question. So I had a feeling if I stop here, I'm gonna give bad impression to the interviewer that I'm giving up on those difficult questions. But what can I do? I just had to stop this interview because I had another things planned, and that is about time management. If you don't have time management on your interview, that means you will not have time management at your work. I have been working in a company where we had 40 minutes long stand-ups up to 1.5 long stand-ups. Starting the day from such a long meeting were destroying the developers' productivity. We were always complaining about now we have to go and code because you kind of get in a mood of discussion and you better spend some more time on the meeting than going and coding after that. I don't know if that sounds familiar, but at least that was my experience. But still, I think most of the developers would agree that long meetings and especially not managed properly meetings with a poor time management is an evil. Those are 4 red flags. The first red flag was not professional HR. Second red flag was no documentation, so documentation shared verbally. The third red flag is not happy colleagues, people on an interview not caring about good manners. And the fourth red flags, time management or absence of time management. It's up to you if you want to work in a company that has all those problems. I will not give you any advice, but what I came up to after different tries and different companies is that it's better to prefer some lifestyle even though you are losing some money, because you are doing it long term and you want to stay effective, you want to grow, and for this you need energy, you need to be happy, and you need to be driven by your profession. Before we wrap up, I've promised to explain why the years of experience is a bad metric to see if the person is a good match for this role. Imagine who you would like to hire: a developer who was working for 5 or 10 years on the same project, doing the same thing, maybe fixing bugs because you cannot develop something for 10 years, probably. Or you would like to hire a person who has maybe 1 or 2 years of experience, but he was working in an agile team with the modern technologies, he was developing a project from scratch, so he has built some real business value. Answer for me is easy because I was second person, but I have seen how productive they are, and there is just one thing I would like you to take away from this video. You should go and practice interviews. If you have no chance to interview at your company, you still need that skill, because that's the only way you can know that you are still valuable at the market and you still possess the skills that are needed for software developer, because you know that the times are changing so fast and the technologies required on the market are changing so fast. The same research I've mentioned at the beginning also concludes that importance of understanding the stress, importance of being able to manage stress and go out of the comfort zone in order to get some results is a key skill for employees to be happy, but also perform best on interview. So I think that practicing interviews is exactly that. And my last ask for you is to let me know in the comments what other topics you would like me to speak about, because as I mentioned, I have a big experience conducting or being at interviews, so I have developed many techniques how to deal with the problems on an interviews. So I will create a video about the topic in the comment that has the most likes. And I will try to make it a kind of software developer friendly way, so kind of step-by-step guide, the framework, the playbook. If you think you have some specific problem, I have a link below where you can contact me and we can have some short call, some consultation, maybe I can mentor you, which I do for many people. So feel free to reach out and have a great day.